recording. Thank you, Anne. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen and go right into the presentation. There you go. Can you see my screen? We're good? All right, so we're going to talk about the 9 saboteurs and the paths into essence. So we're going to start with point 8. We all know the core fear of point 8 is to be rejected, to be hurt, to be betrayed. Because of that core fear, we create sort of like a core motivation, which is independence and control. And through that motivation, we develop a superpower, let's call it that way. And I'm calling here the superpower being strength, just that strength to show up, to be immediate, to be on your face, to be large and in charge, to be out there. All right, when that motivation of independence and control starts to be a need, I'm not only motivated to be independent, but I need to be independent and control. When that happens, what we do is we start striving for independence and control through domination and intimidation. And the more we do that, the more we manifest the rejection, the hurt, and the betrayal, because of course, others don't want to be dominated and intimidated. So we create a pattern of self-sabotage where we manifest exactly that which we are trying to avoid. And it escalates because from a need, it becomes obsession. Oh my God, I have to be independent and in control. Otherwise, I can't survive in this world. Otherwise, something horrible is going to happen. And this brings us into that primal catastrophe, that original moment of arriving on this earth, where the essence of a holy truth comes into that awareness. Where is the absolute truth here? And I have to react with domination and intimidation. And so that obsession calls me right forward into that primal catastrophe in a ways that I start to overuse my superpower. So that superpower actually becomes an anti-power. And it's for the 8, of course, is the anti-power of hardening the heart. So I go from that place of strength of heart and physical strength very much, to the hardening of the heart and the destructive side of that. So I'm calling this dynamic domination. Shirzad Chasmin that wrote Positive Intelligence. I think Robin has a training on that. He calls it the controller. I call it the domination. So the way we see this dynamic, actually, before we go there, the opportunity here is to realize that that obsession for independence and control is actually a misinterpretation. It's a lie. I feel like I need independence and control because I'm under an illusion. And that illusion makes me obsess about it much more so than I have to. It's a lie. It's a misinterpretation. And then we start becoming, of course, the puppet, of that misinterpretation of that illusion. And so we come into this place of self-sabotage through domination that looks a lot like that. Sorry, some words are in Portuguese because some of these slides are from the Portuguese presentation, but we come into this vengeance kind of dynamic that you see here. That you see, the dynamic of the 8. Mm-hmm. Any comments there? Can I? I see Lisa laughing. All right, Lisa. Okay. So let's look at the path of transmutation.
Lisa and I are the 2-8 in the room. So yeah, you got to smile.
Bridget, you're laughing too. I guess that's a good sign. So the path of transmutation for the 8 is that path of vulnerability, lead with love. But of course, the 8's like, what the heck does that mean? Because you understand, in that illusion, it's very difficult to even conceive what vulnerability may be or what leading with love may be, because in this place, we are dealing with this conflict of open-heartedness and guardedness. How do I hold the conflict between open-heartedness and guardedness? And I use that superpower of strength, but part of learning that vulnerability is allowing myself to bring that energy that it's going towards the outside. But as that energy goes through the outside, I share what's in the inside. So I start going like, I feel betrayed. I feel hurt when you do this. I feel disappointed when you blah, blah, blah. So we are bringing the energy forward outside, but we are expressing what's inside. And we start coming like, look, I don't know the answer. Would anybody help me? We start asking for help. We become more open in really sharing the places where we don't know and what's happening inside of us. And that allows us to come to that place of innocence and wonderment, which is the virtue here, to reach that holy truth. And the outcome of this path of transmutation is really a place of true empowerment. When we are empowered by bringing our inner landscape to that energy that we are putting out there from a place of vulnerability and love and heart. And so that starts looking like the 2, of course, and it's very much like that, like the happy, joyful helper. And so here's a representation of that. I was wrong. Now I find just one thing makes me forget. Red wine. So the 8 becomes hands-on. It's something they bring with their body to help, to support, to be creative, to make someone else's life better. It's the generosity of spirit that we see in the 8 as we move to the 2. How are we doing so far? Should we keep on going here? I don't see all of you in my screen, but just shout if you want to talk or we need a break from me talking. All right, point 9. Same kind of thing, right? So the core fear in point 9 is to be separated, to be in conflict, or to be in disharmony. So I create this motivation towards peace and unity and harmony. And in order to maintain that motivation, there is kind of a superpower that I embody, which is a superpower of indivisibility. For me, that sense of interconnectedness, the sense of whole, becomes very important, and it becomes my superpower. So the problem is now when that which used to be a motivation towards peace, unity, and harmony now becomes a need. I have a need for unity and harmony. So that need makes me seek peace, unity, and harmony by disconnecting, because if I stay in it, I can't sustain that peace and harmony, and I need that so much, so I disconnect and I bring that stone wall, I put myself in a clam. And as I do that, I create exactly what I'm trying to avoid. I become separated, I become isolated, and I create inner conflict and a disharmony of the flow that I'm trying to live here. And then, of course, this escalates when now I come into this obsession. Oh my God, I have to have peace in order to survive in this world. I have to have harmony in order to survive. And that indivisibility actually becomes an anti-power of alienation. I completely alienate myself and separate, and I'm in that pattern of disconnection, which Chisraj Chasmin calls it the avoider. I don't like the avoider because the avoider could also apply to the 4, to the 5. I like the disconnection a little better because it represents this step into breaking that connection that it's so important for the 9. And of course, that obsession, I have to be in peace, I have to be in harmony, becomes a lie. I tend to look at that as my way of surviving, because if I don't have that, something horrible is going to happen, because I'm relating to my primal catastrophe when I was first born, and I felt that, whoa, where is that harmony and that unity that I know from the womb? And all of a sudden I don't have it. Well, something got completely out of hand here, and I have to have that back. So this obsession makes me look at that with an exaggerated view that is illusory. So here's a representation of that, and as a very innocent one because it's from a young child. So take a look at how that disassociation happens.
Palmer, look at mommy. Palmer, why are you mad? Here, do you want this? Do you want it? Here you go. See your face.
Hey. So I like this video because it's so innocent. It's like her body is there, but she has taken off and nobody is going to reach her. She's trying to portray that peace and that harmony and that unity that she remembers from the womb. And nobody can reach her in that space. There's complete dissociation from what's happening. And so the path of transmutation for the 9 is to show up, is to come and engage and participate, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, whether I want to be there, whether I don't want to be there, because I'm juggling this separation and unity conflict inside of me. And so my awareness of how do I hold this conflict and how to show up and continue my engagement and my participation brings me into action, the engaged action, which is part of the virtue here for the 9, and the unconditional love, the holy love, which is the holy idea for the 9. And the outcome of this path of transmutation is the true sense of interconnectedness, true sense of wholeness, where I'm not taking myself out of it, and I can stand into the moment in the glory of my essence, of the essence that comes through me without having to withhold or to disconnect. And a representation of that is here. It's kind of like a humorous here site. Let's take a look at this.
What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. Ay, what you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in. What you know.
So the 9, from that place of nobody, of kind of in the background, can come into the moment with all that the 9 brings into the scene, not having to withhold, and just stand on its talents and gifts and share them in engaged participation with the world. All right. Anything out there, you guys? How you're handling that? Is it good? We're good? We'll move on. All right, let's go to point 1. Point 1, the core fear to feel bad, corrupted, or flawed. And of course, that core fear generates that motivation towards integrity, honor, and goodness. And the superpower that that motivation gives us is the superpower of goodness. I mean, we are inherently good. We are looking to improve all the time. And we are the blessedness, in a way, of bringing that kind of structure and perfection and excellence in all that we do. The problem here is when that motivation becomes a need. Now I need to have integrity, honor, and goodness. And now I start seeking integrity, honor, and goodness through correction and judgment. I'm start correcting everything and judging the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, the beautiful and the ugly. And as I do that, I manifest exactly the fear that I'm trying to avoid. That escalates into an obsession. I have to have integrity and to have honor and to be good, because otherwise that primal catastrophe, I'm gonna lose that sense of essence that I know from the womb, and there is an obsession here that brings me to that primal catastrophe, and it turns my superpower into an anti-power, because now I overuse that goodness in terms of trying to improve every little thing that I think is wrong. And I become that perfectionist. And the point here, of course, is that obsession is, the pattern is called the critical, the overcritical. Positive intelligence calls it the stickler. But the point here is that I'm dealing with an obsession that is illusionary. I don't have to have, in a way, it's like, it's not that I don't have to have the goodness, the integrity, and the honor, it's that I already have the goodness, the integrity, and the honor. I don't have to have a need towards that. I don't have to obsess about that, because that it's already given as part of my essence. And so any obsession and need around that becomes an illusion and an exaggerated interpretation of what's happening. So here is a Brazilian video on this, very quick, and it's translated. I did the translation, so sorry about the unprofessional ways that the translation is going to show up here, but it's a woman cooking with, just watch. Let's go.
Se eu não viesse aqui ver, ia queimar tudo. Você não vai lavar a louça antes de começar a cozinhar? Você vai usar essa faca aí pra cortar isso? Eu não tô mexendo em nada, tô só olhando. Não pica a cebola assim, pica em quadradinho. Ó, pega essa panela aqui que é melhor. Você não quer mesmo que eu faça, não? Que se depender de você, a gente não come hoje. Sai, deixa que eu lavo. Se eu não viesse aqui ver, ia queimar tudo. Não vai.
So I like this video because it shows a lot of the facial expressions and the kind of like the energetics of, that dynamic of the overcritical that we can come into as a one. So the path of transmutation here, I call it the path of explorations, like in which other ways can I look at this? Of course, it ties with the 7, right? So how can I be more spontaneous and more creative in the ways I interpret what's happening, what I'm seeing, and what I'm going through? The conflict here is between flexibility and rigidity, how I hold this conflict between flexibility and rigidity, using my superpower of goodness in balance without, letting that superpower be overused towards pointing to what's wrong, but actually balancing it, pointing towards what's right and exploring that which I see as wrong in different angles so that I can look at it from a more holistic perspective, which brings me into that place of serenity when I start exploring and looking from different perspectives. I have to be serene to even entertain the idea of exploration at that point, and so that I can come to embody that essence of holy perfection through excellence. And the path of transmutation here leads to that place of true acceptance. And the figure here for true acceptance, it's kind of like how diversity is necessary in order to find balance of different shapes and colors and ways. And to balance all of that, I have to acknowledge that diversity. I have to accept that diversity so that I can manage that balance with spontaneity, with creativity, with exploration. And of course, this also ties into the 4, for the 1, the 4, the 1, and the 7. It's all kind of part of this transmutation path. And here's a representation of that. When I see that, the true heart of organizing is really about freedom, because the more I can balance all these diversities and these different shapes and ways, the more freedom I gain for myself. It's not about being rigid, really. It's about being flexible in the midst of organizing all the diversity and the divergencies and everything that is out there. All right, how are we doing, everyone? We're good? Okay. So let's go into point 2. The core fear of point 2 is to feel unloved, unlovable, and unappreciated. And that leads us into a motivation to be loved, to be appreciated, to be lovable. The superpower that comes with that motivation is the power of caring. We are always caring for everybody, in order to be loved and lovable and appreciated. Now, the problem here is when that motivation becomes a need. Now I need to be loved and appreciated. And in that need, I started to seek that love and appreciation by engulfing others and expecting that they give me a return for that. And in that engulfing, in that expectation, I create exactly what I'm trying to avoid. And that escalates into an obsession that ties right into my primal catastrophe. Now I'm looking at this in an exaggerated view, in a way like, if I don't get appreciation, if I'm not loved, I can't survive. My superpower becomes an anti-power here, where I come into that burnout. I overgive. And I am in this dynamic of engulfing others, overgiving, which positive intelligence calls the pleaser. And the point is that that obsession is a misinterpretation, an exaggeration, a lie, that it's not true, because my essence already is love and appreciation. I already have that. All right, so a representation of that in a very innocent, childlike expression. Here we go, of the engulfing of the other.
Долго-долго я тебя зацелую и скажу нежно-нежно, если я полюбила, значит ты мой навечно. Не смотри мне в глаза, заворожу. Ой, да не убежать, когда гляжу. Я во взгляде его сама тону. Ох, тянет любовь меня к...
There you go. And you see the other one, right? Trying to get away from the engulfing of the 2 there. So the path of transmutation for the 2 is the path of honoring the self, honoring the other, honoring the system. And it starts with self-sensitiveness. How can I give myself that which I'm trying to give the other? The conflict is between giving and receiving. And how do I play a role into the system so that I can give and receive for myself as well as for the other? And so that superpower of caring plays a role in that place, in a way that I start coming into that humility that I have to receive from a greater power, from something greater than me, in order to give. If I'm giving of myself, I'm going to come to that burnout. I will eventually come to burnout. So in order to replenish myself, I have to be humble enough to realize I am not doing it. Something else has to come through, has to give me the life force, has to give me the inspiration, the motivation, that which fulfills me first, so that I can give of my overflow. And it's a very humble place for the two to realize I need to be filled up in order to give to others. And that's the place of the holy will. There's something greater than me, with whatever will that it may have, that it's greater than my will, and my freedom lies in working and serving that holy will, allowing that holy will to fulfill me so that I can serve others. And the outcome of this path of transmutation then becomes true service and a beautiful connection and flow between giving and receiving. And here is a representation of that.
'Cause you had a bad day, you're taking one down, you sing a sad song just to turn it around. You say you don't know, you tell me don't lie, you're working.
It's like I am offering, but I'm also being offered. I am inspiring, but I'm also being inspired. I am serving, but I'm also being served. And so the flow becomes really beautiful here in the transmutation path. How are you doing? You guys awake there and with me? All right, good. Let's go to point 3. Point 3, the fear of point 3 is to be a failure and to be without value. It gives us a motivation to be admired, to be successful, to go out there and to achieve. And the superpower here is the superpower of success. You know, do, and I'll have success is the superpower. Now, when that motivation becomes a need, now I need to be admired and successful. What do? In that need, I start seeking that admiration and success through external validation and dressing up in an image of success. And that external validation and that kind of facade of success brings me right into that fear, because deep inside I know that the external, the validation is coming from somewhere else. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. And that image of success that I'm dressing up with, it's just a facade. And so I bring forward that which I'm trying to manifest. And then I go more into that need, becomes an obsession. Now I'm obsessed that I have to be admired and success. Otherwise, I can't survive on this earth. It brings me right into my primal catastrophe, initial trauma. And I manifest this dynamic of a facade. And Chisraj Chasmin calls it the hyperachiever. And I like his names because it shows, you know, where he has bias, where he has a judgment. I think he probably doesn't have as much bias on the 3. He calls it hyperachiever instead of really. I think the terminology that he provides sometimes shows biases towards what he thinks as, acceptable or not acceptable, but that's another conversation. Let's not get into that. But I'm calling it a facade here, a facade. And it's a facade based on that obsession that I have to be admired, I have to be valued, which is ultimately an illusion, an exaggeration. I don't have to have that. I already have that by the glory of my essence that is already given to me upon birth. Before birth, actually, it's part of the essence that formed me in the womb and is always going to be with me and with all of us. So here's a representation of this facade dynamic, which is very common today in our social media and in our ways of excessively promoting ourselves. Here we go.
Can you move? Like, I'm trying to take a photo. I don't want you in it.
People just don't get it.
Can everyone move?
Like that self-centered, trying to be on the spotlight myself and things like that. Now, the transmutation here is truthfulness. is that path of truthfulness and veracity that is dealing with the conflict between essence and image. How do I navigate essence and image with success? And that allows me to come to manifest the virtue of authenticity and to actually embody that essence of holy hope, where the now is ever new. Every moment I'm radiating into a glory that comes through me, as me, in me, by the power of the Lord. And it's that holy harmony of knowing that universal laws are regulating all of us, including me. And in that universal law, there is a harmony. Things happens in a harmonious way. And in that harmony, hope is always renewed in every breath. Hope is renewed and alive again. And the radiance of the essence flourish like a fountain that never ends. And that is true mastery. To come to that place is really true mastery. And I absolutely love the video that you're going to watch next, because I think it's so powerful for all the points of the Enneagram, particularly for essence and image, which affects all of us, whether we have 3 as predominant or not. It's part of modern life. So let's watch this true master video here.
I looked in the mirror, and what did I see but a little old lady peering back at me, with bags and sags and wrinkles and wispy white hair. And I asked my reflection, how did you get there? You once were straight and vigorous, and now you're stooped and weak, when I tried so hard to keep you from becoming an antique. My reflection's eyes twinkled, and she solemnly replied, you're looking at the gift wrap, and not the jewel inside, a living gem and precious, of unimagined worth, unique and true, the real you, the only you on earth. The years that spoil your gift wrap with other things more cruel should purify and strengthen and polish up that jewel. So focus your attention on the inside, not the out, on being kinder, wiser, more content, and more devout. Then, when your gift wrap's stripped away, your jewel will be set free to radiate God's glory throughout eternity.
Isn't that something? Oh, I get emotion every time I watch this video. Yeah, so that's the 3. Should we keep on going? You ready for more? All right, let's go. Point 4. Let's go to point 4. The core fear in point 4 is to be without identity, meaning, or belonging. So it brings us the motivation to have identity, to have meaning, to have belonging, to find that deeper significance. And I call the superpower that comes with that motivation, I call it impressionability. Impressionability is the ability to create an impression. 4s have this deep perspective of everything they see. And that deep perspective creates such an impression on others. It's innovative, it's creative. It's like, how did you think of that? How did you see that? And so in that depth, in that meaning, they create an impression on others that becomes their superpower, this impressionability. Now, the problem here is when that motivation, well, not the problem, the challenge, the sabotage here happens when that which was a motivation becomes a need. Now I have to have identity and meaning and belonging. And so I start to seek that identity, meaning, and belonging by identifying with my emotions and emphasizing what's missing. And the moment I identify with my emotions, I forget the rest of me. I start looking at what's missing. I create the fear that I'm trying to avoid. And that escalates into an obsession. Now I have to have that in order to survive, connects with my primal trauma, and my superpower becomes overemphasized, and now I'm trying to create that impression on everything that it's lacking, everything that others have that I don't have. I start that negative comparison, that emotionalism of lack, and identifying with the ups and downs of my emotion as who I am. And I'm in this pattern of victimization, which positive intelligence calls a victim. And the point here is that obsession is a lie. I don't need, I already have the identity, the meaning, the belonging. That connection with holy origin is my essence. It's my given gift. It's the essence within which I was formed and which I manifest in this body. And so here's a representation of this, of the point for the 4 as we identify with emotions and emphasize what's lacking. So that path out for the 4, I call it the path of purpose. It's finding our heartfelt meaning. So while we are lost in our emotionalism of lack, in our negative comparisons, in identifying with the emotions, if we can come to what really matters here as far as my purpose, what is my heart telling me in terms of what my purpose is? Because as I find my purpose, I can manage the conflict between belonging and uniqueness. How am I unique and still belong? How I can manage that conflict with my superpower of impressionability towards that which is my purpose. So everything that is happening to me and to others become, I'm more equanimous. I look at it more without the emotional interpretation of it. I can just focus on that purpose as my significance in life that connects me right to that place of holy origin, that it's my birth gift, and I come to that place of true meaning. And what I like in the figure here is that you see all these rocks, being piled up in the form of a heart in a manner that it's how did these rocks actually held each other that way? But I think the energy of the 4, when we have that connection with origin, with meaning and significance, we almost make the impossible. It's like we bring a purpose into this world that may look impossible. But for the 4, because of the depth and the significance and the impressionability that we bring into the world, we can make that purpose, whatever that is, possible, even when it seems impossible. And a representation of that is the heartfelt purpose. It's like you can come up with the most mundane things like pills, and turn them into something that expresses that heartfelt purpose. So look at this. So the 4 can do that. The 4 can take whatever mundane thing and circumstance is in front of them and turn into an art, turn into meaning, turn into beauty, turn into significance through that path of purpose. Okay, how much time we have? I'm gonna expedite a little bit. We only have 5, 6, and 7, 3 more left. So let's go into the 5 now. The core fear of the 5, to be incompetent, to be incapable. It leads into that motivation of being competent and being capable. And it develops a superpower that I call here resourcefulness, but it's very much a resourcefulness of the mind, knowledge, connecting dots, seeing how things kind of interact and connect through information, to research, through data. And that gives me the competency and the capability to survive in this world. Now, when that motivation becomes a need, now I have the need to be competent and capable, then I start seeking that competence and understanding by alienating myself, by taking myself out into the world and mentalizing in my head and going into whatever kind of crazy thoughts I have in my head. And the more I think, the more I feel incompetent and incapable, of course, because the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. And so I create an obsession here. I have to know. And then the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. And I enter into the anti-power of the 5, which is that place of alienation. And the dynamic here is of hypermentalization. Positive intelligence calls it hyper-rational. And of course, that obsession is an illusion, a complete illusion. It's a lie, a misinterpretation. And here is a representation of that over-mentalization expression of our 5s.
Okay, stop looking awkward. You look awkward. Smile. Just look entertained then. Like play with your ring or something. Look entertained. Do anything. Let me just go to the bathroom. Maybe that'll be better. No. Okay. Wash your hands, but don't wash them too long. Make sure it's long enough that they know you washed your hands for the full time, but not too long that they think you have diarrhea. It's too long. You're taking too long now. Hurry up. Hurry up. You're taking too long. Okay, get a drink. Okay, this should keep you entertained for a second. Take a sip, but don't take too many sips. That's really embarrassing. Why did I come here? I don't understand why I came here. Do they have a child that I could play with? A dog that I could pet? Anything that I could do to keep entertained? Where is my friend? Where did they go? I don't want to be here. This is so...
So that shows, why 5s are usually socially awkward, because the mind is in over-mentalization and it creates this social anxiety almost for the 5s. So the path of transmutation for us as a 5 is the path of usefulness. What of these thoughts are actually useful? How can I use the thoughts that I'm having here? And that allows me to come to a place of confidence, which ties me to the 8 for the 5, where I start looking what is actually useful. So in the conflict of resourcefulness and scarcity that plays for the 5, I can start looking for what actually is resourceful, what is useful. And I apply there my superpower. I come into this place of non-attachment. I don't have to hoard anything. I can select what's useful from what's not useful from a place of detachment. And then I come into that understanding of holy omniscience. I start seeing how things connect and how things are perfectly aligned as I bring myself into the world, as I participate and select what's useful, what's resourceful from what's not. And I'm in this place of true wisdom. So a beautiful representation of this non-attachment here is this next video. Let's listen to it.
There's a beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says that detachment is not that you own nothing. Detachment is that nothing owns you. And I love it, because to me that summarizes detachment in a way that it's not usually explained. Usually people see detachment as being away from everything. Actually, the greatest detachment is being close to everything and not letting it consume and own you. And that's real power, that's real strength. There's a beautiful...
There you go. So I think that's our learning for the 5 is being with everything, but not letting it own us, not letting it own our minds, our thoughts, and allow that detachment to be part of the way we see the interconnection and the omniscience, understanding patterns. As we understand patterns, we actually see the transparency of these patterns, because by understanding one pattern, you understand all that comes with that pattern. And so it creates like a domino effect that we can connect dots without being attached to the information itself. All right, let's go to the 6. So 6, the core fear is to be unprepared and incapable of surviving danger. The motivation here is to have safety, to have preparation, to have prevention. And of course, it gives us the superpower of preparedness. Prevention. Now, when that motivation for safety, preparation, and prevention becomes a need, then I start seeking safety and preparation by focusing on the anxiety for the phobics or the adrenaline for the counterphobics of danger. And as I focus on that anxiety and adrenaline, I feel more unprepared and incapable. I mean, I'm having a download of chemicals, the anxiety, the cortisol and the adrenaline that comes from that place leads me right into that which I'm trying to avoid, which escalates with the obsession that is created there, that links me to my primal catastrophe, and my superpower becomes an anti-power. Now my anti-power of angst and anxiety is all there, and I'm in paranoia, in the dynamic of paranoia being hypervigilant, as Chirag Jasmine calls it. Here's that's of course the obsession is a misinterpretation, is a lie, and here's a representation of that place of angst.
I guess I gotta deal with it.
So it's that, I mean, we all been in that place of worry, worry and trying to figure out all the possible ways that it can go wrong, how am I going to address them, and the angst that come with that. So the path here is the path of trusting. But when we talk about trust is how can I trust on the outside? I don't know what's going to happen in the next minute. I can't trust the next minute, but it's the inner trust. It is the trust in this breath, in this now, the direct experience of faith that can only happen in the right now, in this right breath, right here. And so I start dribbling the conflict between preparedness and paranoia with this superpower of prevention, where I realize the only place I can be safe is in this very breath, in this very now. The only place I can really trust is the now. I don't know. The future, the past is already gone. So this is the only place of safety. And in this place, I can create the courage, the faith, and the strength to move forward. And we call it then the true faith. And that true faith becomes, we start noticing palpable experiences, very palpable experiences that we can't deny, that assists us in facing uncertainties. Some people may go to the church to have those palpable experiences. Some people may pray. Some people may meditate. Some people may go to nature. But we start looking for places and ways where we palpably feel something inside that's greater than us. And we can't deny that experience. And that experience propels us into the unknown, into the insecurities that are part of life. And that is faith, in whatever way we choose to manifest it. And so here is a representation of how this person, had.
This is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is how we.
If it gives me a palpable sensation of protection by saging my house, with the picture of the Christ on the robot, that's so be it. I'm having a palpable experience that helps me face the unknown, and that's what faith is all about, whatever it may be for each one of us. Now, finally, the 7. Here, the core fear of the 7, which is, sorry about the typo there, is to be sad, bored, or trapped in pain or in suffering. That leads us into a motivation to have novelty, have fun, have excitement. And the superpower that comes with that is variety. I'm multitasking, I'm here, I'm there, I'm looking for that excitement, that fun, and that variety as part of my superpower. Now, the minute that motivation becomes a need, then I start to seek excitement, fun, and novelty by external entertainment. I look for that outside of me. I create addictions. Sorry about the typo there as well. I create addictions because, of course, externally, I will be satisfied to a point, but then I'm going to need more of it to be satisfied next time, and then more of it to be satisfied next time. And I create the trap that I'm afraid of. I create the pain and the suffering and the imprisonment that I'm trying to avoid. And that becomes an obsession, connecting me to my primal trauma, primal catastrophe. My superpower becomes an anti-power. It's like, I call this anti-power insatiability, because all of a sudden I'm insatiable, nothing will satisfy me. I'm insatisfiable because the outside is never going to satisfy us. And I'm in this place of anticipation. And this is a hard one, because there's part of modern living that feels that it's good to be anticipating. I'm always anticipating the next. Yes, but I'm restless and I'm never here. I'm never in the trust of this very now, of this very breath. And so, of course, that is obsession. That obsession is a lie, a misinterpretation. And here is a bit of how it manifests in us as a 7.
I'm throwing a party Saturday night. It's Chinese New Year's. I'm throwing a party Saturday night. I love parties. I love everyone getting together. I love packing for vacation. I love getting on the plane for vacation. I like the day you get there. I have such intense depression leaving Hawaii or coming home from a vacation. I'm throwing a party.
Yeah, that's the 7. And the path of transmutation for the 7 is our ability to come to the presence, the mindfulness of this very breath, this very now. So we start managing the conflict between excitement and addiction by finding that variety in us, by finding that variety in this moment, by allowing this moment to fulfill me, to find fulfillment in the breath, in the now. And that brings me the sobriety to manifest, this holy plan, this holy work, the inner work, the holy wisdom of the 9, which I call true presence. And what I like about the symbolism of the tree here is that the tree is right there in that very place. And in that place, it's creating the roots underneath, and it's manifesting the fruits. So it can be so present in its state, and from that state, expand and grow and feed whatever is around them. So here, a representation of this dynamism, this view of the 7 that is always generating opportunities, always generating blessings from inside out. Here's a powerful video on that. Let's watch.
Things I have faith in that. Sometimes the universe has a strange way of teaching you things and taking you on these journeys, and sometimes when you think your dream has been broken, a better one comes along, or something happens that you weren't expecting. The key thing for me, and maybe for us, is to never give up. Never give up until you take your last breath. Because life can bring some challenging stuff, but it can also bring amazing things. I have faith in that. Sometimes the universe.
So I like, he always talks about, he talks about the breath, this positivism of there's always new, there's always exciting things, even in the midst of the chaos and the sadness. There's always, never lose hope. And so here is kind of a summary, all the saboteurs, the paths that I talked about leading into the essence of each of these points. Thank you so much, soul sisters. It's a privilege to talk to you. I am going to stop now and so that we